Good morning. This is Cecil and Blues. Thank you for joining me for another Final Fantasy XIV video. Today we will be looking at the Heavensward dungeon, Sohm. This is a main story dungeon, accessible at level 53 as you progress through the main story of Heavensward. It is divided into 3 areas with 3 bosses. The first boss is Rascovinik, which is some sort of disgusting Venus flytrap, and he has just a few major abilities. The first is Acid Rain, and it creates small AoEs at the feet of all party members. You'll have to step very quickly to avoid it, otherwise you will take a moderate amount of damage. Try not to stand on top of each other to avoid overlapping circles, and that will result in more severe damage. The next ability, which I only saw him cast once, was Phyto Beam. It's a directional AoE. It's not a huge area, and it has a very long cast time. You have quite a while to get out of its line of sight. The next ability is kind of the major ability of the encounter. It is called Sweet Scent. It marks a single player, and shortly afterwards, the boss will whip out its vine arms, grab a player, pull them in, and then cast Devour, and then spit them out. Or at least that's what happened to me. I saw the healer get nabbed, and they were able to just run out of it, but when I was nabbed, I was put inside the plant, and then the plant spit me out. I'm not sure if I made a small mistake there, or if maybe you can avoid the stun with some ability or luck. But if you are not the person who's been drawn in, just make sure to run out of the AoE that is Devour. It is centered on the boss, so just move away from it. At the same time as Sweet Scent is cast, a bunch of bees will be summoned, and they will start making their way towards the boss. For each bee that gets close to the boss will eat them and gain a stacking damage buff. The only other thing to warn you about is try not to stand next to the player who's been marked by Sweet Scent, because otherwise you will get grabbed with them. At the conclusion of the second area of the dungeon, you will encounter Myath, and this is a giant monstrous T-Rex, and its abilities are pretty limited as well. It casts a cone AoE labeled Razor Scales. It has a fairly long casting time. Just try not to be too far away from the boss, because with cone AoEs, the further you are away, the further you have to run to get out of its area of effect. It just did moderate damage. I didn't notice it putting any stacking debuffs on anyone, so if you get hit by it, you're just making the healer's job harder. Primordial Roar is unavoidable AoE damage on all party members. It will also summon a few or a bunch of slimes. Myath will attempt to eat the slimes, and for each slime that the boss consumes, it will be able to cast Mad Dash. And Mad Dash is a AoE that is targeted on a player. You can't avoid it, so if you're targeted by it, you're going to get hit by it, and then it explodes for damage around you. So try not to be stacked up together, so if you get hit by one of these incoming attacks, it doesn't do damage to other players. But at the same time, you want to make sure to focus your damage on individual slimes to kill as many of them as possible before the boss gets around to eating them, so that it casts Mad Dash less often. The only other thing to be warned about is this happened the second time Primordial Roar was cast on us. It may be dependent on the damage threshold that the boss is at, but watch out for a Chime of the Mountain, which is a much larger slime. That slime will begin casting the last song as soon as it appears, and if it completes the cast time on the last song, it will explode for a large amount of damage, and combined with a hit from Mad Dash could result in the death of someone. The final fight has a few more mechanics. It is against a boss named Tioman, and there is an environmental AoE that happens throughout the fight. It puts small ground AoE marks centered on players, so you'll really need to be on your toes, be ready to dodge pretty much at all times. The first ability you'll see Teoman cast is Chaos Blast. This is 3 line AoEs that overlap at a targeted player, creating a star pattern. This can make for a tricky dodge when combined with the environmental AoE. Just make sure to get out of it. Next thing that you need to be worried about is Comet. 2 players will get a green mark over their head indicating that the comet is about to land on them. If you are marked, you will want to run to the edge of the fighting arena, and you'll want to run to the opposite edge of the other player. These will create airship crash points, very similar to the fight against the Omega weapon. The Ultima weapon? Now I forget which one we fought, but that fight where they crashed airships on you. The only difference here is you control where they land. So you want to position those to the edge of the room. Once the target has been selected and the green mark disappears from your head, you will have a short period of time to move away from that impact point, and the damage dealt is dependent on how close you are to the impact point. If you put the marks too close to each other, then those damage circles will overlap, and it can result in a huge amount of damage, even near the center of the screen. So try and avoid that as much as possible. About 50% of the way through the fight, Tiamat will start to glow purple, and she will become invulnerable. In order to break the shield, you will have to destroy her wings. During this phase, Tiamat will cast 2 new abilities, Heaven's Fall and Dark Star. Heaven's Fall puts an orange mark over a player and calls down 4 circular AoEs near them that will pulse damage twice. Try and move this away from the other players so that they can continue DPS on the wings. The second ability, Dark Star, is an unavoidable AoE pulse that hits the whole party. Once this phase is complete, the fight will continue as it did at the beginning, but one small difference: every time Comet is cast, it will now target 3 players, so you'll want to spread out to like the 3 corners that the tank is not currently standing in to avoid, again, overlapping that damage. Continue to do things that do damage to the boss, and the fight will come to its conclusion. And that's Sohm all. If you found this video helpful, please hit the like button. You can subscribe to the channel to get more videos in the future. You can also follow me on Twitter @itsboats. And I will be working on more videos as I can. It is a hard job to kind of take the time to edit these videos because it means I can't play. So I very much want to continue my progress. I'm about halfway through the content in Heavensward with my main character. I'm at level 55 and progressing into the zone that is appropriate for that. Notice how I avoid telling you any real details in case you're kind of trailing behind like I am. Again, thank you so much for watching the video, and I hope you have a great day and continue to enjoy early access and or the release of Heavensward.